Hey y'all, it's Tammy with Collard Valley Cooks, and today we are making a delicious homemade apple pie. And I hope that you grab you a couple of refrigerated pie crusts, because we did the inside homemade, and make this for the holidays. You will be pleased. Hey y'all, it's Tammy with Collard Valley Cooks. Today I'm going to make a big apple pie. So I'm going to peel some apples really quick and show you how I slice them up for a pie. And it's really not that time consuming if you've got the right tools to do it with. I use my chef knife and I chop the top off straight so that I can lay the apple flat. I like to use Golden Delicious. They cook up well and they just do a good job of flavor. They have a sweet taste, they have a tart taste, and they have a good texture when you are making a pie, okay? So the first thing I do is I cut the tops off my apples like that. I peel them. So now we're gonna peel them real quick. And every fall, my mama was in a homemakers club. Our community, Collard Valley, had a homemakers club. It was called the Collard Valley Homemakers Club. So all the local ladies in the valley got together once a month, and in the fall they would always make a booth for the fair exhibit, and they would also sell treats and cakes and crafts and quilts and things that they'd made throughout the year to raise money. And Mama would always use the apples, and she would make fried apple pies for the fall festivals. Alright, so we've got all those peeled, and now what we do is we take our slicer and we go down in the center of the apple. And then we take the core out. And we do this for all of our apples. And you want to kind of hurry when you're making an apple pie, because if you don't, they'll start to turn. And I don't like the lemon juice in mine. So I try to just go kind of fast so that we don't have to fool with the lemon juice. And once you slice the core out of them, then you're going to cut the middle part off and the end if it had any peeling left or any part of the core. And then you're just going to slice your apples in half and throw them in the bowl you're going to use to toss your apple pie in. So just remember that ratio. And remember, they're big apples, not small apples. Okay? Now, I am going to use some of my favorite spices. This is an apple pie spice from Penzeys. And of course, you can use any kind of pie spice you want. But this is what we're going to use. And I'm just going to sprinkle it in there and toss it really well. If you want to know what theirs has in it, it has cinnamon, nutmeg, mace, and cloves. Okay? So we're going to toss this. I'm also going to add just a little bit of flour to it. So we're going to toss this together. But just make sure that they're good and coated and you get them mixed up in there good. Okay, we're going to set that to the side. This is a refrigerated crust, and it is pretty large. because, you can flour your surface before you roll it out if you want to. I got a really good surface to work on, with, so I don't worry so much about it as some people have to do. I'll roll it up and just lightly flour my surface, but you can see it's not really wanting to stay on there or nothing. I don't have any flour in my sifter. When you're working with pie crust, you don't want a lot of flour like you can have with biscuits and stuff. You don't want much, okay? So remember that too. So just barely, you know, put some on it. Now I'm going to use this roller just because it's easy, and I'm just going to roll my crust. And I'm actually going to pull it apart, but I'm going to wait until I get it on the pie. And I'm going to pull off this edge and maybe make a couple of leaves or something out of it, okay? So, of course, I don't know. This pie is going to be so tall to start with, I may not be able to pull it across. So, I think I'll just go ahead and put some more, oh, that come off on my roller. You little turkey. Just piece it back together if it sticks together, okay? Now we're going to roll this up like this. Come here, Betty. It don't have to be perfect, as long as it tastes good, right? And we're going to put this in our crust. And you're going to want it to be pretty tall because these are going to cook down a lot, okay? If you've made too many, then cook some up on the stove and make some fried pies out of them like I have. I'm going to take a little bit of butter and melt it in here and pour over the top of the apples. Now I put more in there than I'm going to use, so a half a stick easily will do it. And you can use part of it as well on top of the crust. Okay. So I'm going to pour this little butter on them. Save just enough for the top of the crust, okay? Crust. I'm going to try to put it in the middle. I'm going to have to just kind of pull it back together, y'all. So just pick it up and try to pull it back together. But you do want some slits, you know, some nice slits in it as well. I'm going to pull off the extra, just a little bit of the extra. And then we'll try to make it look good around the edges. So I'm just going to take my fingers and just kind of pinch the crust in place. Now let's make a couple of little leaves. I'm going to sit this right here and y'all can look at it up close. And then I'm just going to roll up a little bit of this and we're going to make a couple of little leaves to go on it. So right now what we're going to do, since we got that little bad spot in our pie, turn it around and take a look. See that bad spot? I'm going to make some leaves. And we're going to put them right there. And you want them to be thin, not thick. Okay? How's that look? I can't see it upside down. Does it look okay? Let's see. Yeah. I just need a couple at the bottom and then I'll be ready. Let me take a look at this side. Put that one there. And then one here. I think that'll do it. I'm gonna put some cinnamon sugar on the pie. I'm just gonna pour a little butter on top of it. That looks good enough to eat. Watch out, Happy. Okay, our pie's ready to get out. It's been in here for quite a while. I really do believe it's ready. I did put a pie crust guard on it because it was getting quite brown. So we're going to let this sit and cool down at room temperature. It's going to continue to cook just a little bit. I don't want to mess up my crust with these big hand things. And you can see where we messed up our crust, how pretty it looks now. And nobody would have even never known that we messed anything up. It looks so good. Okay, you can tell by looking at our crust that it's just absolutely beautiful. If you didn't know any better, nobody would ever know that I messed it up at all. It looks so pretty, just like it is. I'm gonna put just a little bit of butter on it. And we're gonna let this cool down at room temperature and let it continue to cook a little bit as it does. And we won't cut this until it has cooled all the way down. When we were kids, I'll just tell y'all a story, okay? When we were kids, we didn't have, of course, these kind of apple trees. We just had those regular, I don't even know what kind of apples they were, but we did have some apple trees. We also had crab apple trees. And the crab apple trees, if you'll remember, they would always come in the spring. They would have little nests in them that the caterpillars would build their nests in those, and sometimes the cherry trees. And but we always liked the crab apples when we were kids because they had a little bit of a sour taste, and we had to wait longer for, you know, we also liked sweet plums. We had plenty of wild plums growing, and we had, Mama did plant us a plum tree as well. But anyway, Granny had an apple tree, and she always peeled her apples, and she always took a sheet, and she had cut a table out back behind the smokehouse, and she would lay the sheets up on the table and lay out her apple slices. And Granny dried her apples every year. So she put them in the freezer. She didn't cook them up. She just put them up dried, and she put them in the freezer. And most of the time she put them in bags. And we would get those apples out, and she would have apples with dinner, just, you know, cooked on the stove with some spices. Or she would make fried apple pies, or she would make an apple pie. So they were real versatile and easy to use, and this apple's kind of got a brown spot on take out of it, okay? So anyway, I just remember Granny always having her apples out there getting ready, you know. And our favorite was, of course, the fried apple pies.